I'm taking a bath, so clean this up. Jack points at the suitcase with his chin. I nodded slightly while holding it. Understood. You should be able to handle this much without being told, seriously. Humph. With a snort, Jack heads to the bathroom. Watching him go, I sighed. I slowly lifted the suitcase. Just then, something fell out with a rustle. What? What's this? Looking down, I saw an envelope at my feet. Wondering what it could be, I opened the envelope. What is this? Inside the envelope were some photos and a divorce paper. The divorce paper was signed by Jack. And in the enclosed photos were a woman and a child. Perhaps this means he wants to leave me because his mistress has had his child. Yes, Jack said to clean this up. Meaning, file this divorce form. This is the happiest gift I've received in a long time. Jack must feel the same way. I need to prepare something in return. A wonderful return gift named revenge. I smiled slightly and carefully slipped the envelope into my pocket. My name is Sarah. I work as an office clerk at a metal processing factory. It's a typical small-town factory job, so neither the salary nor the bonuses are that great. But, living in a small town, I find life relatively easy. Plus, my husband Jack is a business owner. That's another reason I don't find life too hard. Jack's business is a consulting firm. He has clients nationwide, which means he travels a lot. That might be why we don't have any children. Both Jack and I are 38 now. Maybe it's too late for kids now. Lately, that's what I've been starting to think. Still, I have no intention of getting divorced. You can build a happy home even without children. That's what I believe. Nevertheless, I can't say that I'm without worries. Lately, Jack has been distant, and we've been missing each other more often. It's problematic that he relies entirely on my income for living expenses because his job is so demanding. But I believe that together with Jack, we can make it through anything. That's how I've been encouraging myself. There's a reason I think this way. It's because I know what Jack was like in our student days. I met Jack when we were in high school. He was the popular guy in our class. He had leadership qualities, always stepping up during festivals and sports days. If someone made a mistake, Jack would cover for them. He would solve any problems that arose. Jack was someone everyone relied on. On the other hand, I was a plain and quiet girl. I lived my life trying to stay unnoticed. It was almost like that was my goal. But after meeting Jack, for the first time, I decided to try to speak up. During a meeting about the festival, I raised my hand and spoke up for the first time. The festival, our class could do a play. Before I could finish, laughter broke out from around me. That's because most of my classmates were planning to do a cafe. The play must be tough to prepare, right? Memorizing lines and all, it seems troublesome. Amid such remarks, Jack said to the classmates, "Isn't it more rewarding because it's challenging? Besides, it'll be more memorable, for sure." With Jack's words, the atmosphere changed instantly. In the end, our class did a play for the festival. There's no doubt that this event brought me and Jack closer. However, we graduated high school without anything significant happening between us. I got a job at the factory, and Jack went on to university. Years later, at a reunion, we reconnected, which led to dating and eventually marriage. By then, Jack had become the president of a consulting firm. Needless to say, I was envied by everyone. But the reality wasn't so great. Jack's job was hectic, with frequent business trips every month. We hardly spent any time together at home. Moreover, despite the glamorous title of president, Jack's company was just barely getting by. We're thinking of expanding the business, so I expect our income will be lower for a while. Are you okay with that? Right now, our business foundation is stable. But if we do nothing, we'll eventually hit a dead end. If our current clients leave, our income will decrease. That might leave our employees stranded. As a president, he has a duty to support our employees. Expanding the business to gain more clients is a better option. That's what Jack said. That conversation happened not long after we got married. So, even after getting married, I couldn't quit my job. On the contrary, my income became the mainstay as Jack's pay was minimal. But I believe we can get through this. Let's keep faith in Jack and keep pushing forward. That's what I've kept telling myself as I continued to work hard. While I devoted myself to my job, I also managed the household chores on my own. Of course, Jack, with his frequent business trips, didn't have time for housework. Moreover, he looked utterly exhausted on his days off. So, I couldn't even ask him to help with the chores on those days. However, balancing work and household chores is a common scene in dual-income households today. In fact, many people are pushing through the same, so I can't say I'm the only one striving hard. But there was more to my responsibilities. I was also helping Jack's parents. My father-in-law ran a small diner. It was an old and beloved local spot, cherished by the community. Because the price is low, the profit is quite small. Still, customers were ceaseless. As the diner was so busy, my mother-in-law started helping with serving the tables. Even then, they were short-handed. That's why I offered my help. So, on weekdays, I worked my clerical job and did housework, and on weekends, I helped out at my in-laws' diner from morning till evening. That was the life I continued to lead. It was challenging, but fulfilling. And the food my father-in-law cooked was delicious. I even learned some recipes during breaks from work. So, I didn't mind helping out at the diner itself. Yet, there were times I wanted a break. Still, I couldn't say I needed a rest to my in-laws. There was a reason for this. I had set it up as if I was volunteering to help. Sarah, you work as a clerk during the week, don't you? You don't have to force yourself to help. No, I do it because I like to. That's what I told my in-laws. But the truth was a bit different. Actually, Jack had asked me to help his parents. Needless to say, I initially refused. Working even on weekends is a bit much. I really feel sorry, but I'm worried about Dad and Mom. His parents had continued to work at the diner almost without breaks. Now over 60, their bodies were starting to decline. Lately, they often complained of aches and pains, and Jack seemed very concerned. So, could you go and keep an eye on them at the diner? But I'm working on weekdays, and there are all the household chores to catch up on the weekend, right? Then we'll hire a housekeeper. Doing that would jeopardize our household finances. It would be better to just hire a part-time worker for the diner. After much deliberation, I agreed to help. But this decision was a big mistake. I only realized that recently. It was about 6 months ago. There's a bit of work left, so I'll clear that up first. Then, I'll prepare dinner. You're always a big help. Thank you. Having returned from work, I had such a conversation with Jack and started preparing dinner as usual. A little while later, as I was about to ask Jack about the seasoning of the meal. As I was about to knock on Jack's room, I heard his voice from inside. Just give up already, Dad. How long are you planning to keep running that filthy diner? I was shocked by Jack's words. But what he said next was even more unbelievable. It's just earning peanuts, right? You better just quit. Peanuts, that's a lie, Jack. Stunned, I lowered my hand without knocking. Or is it because of our housekeeper that you're making any money? Just as Jack said that, I heard my father-in-law's voice over the phone. What do you think Sarah is? You need to stop this nonsense. His voice was faint, but somehow it reached my ears clearly. Tears suddenly started to overflow. It was because I had learned about Jack's true nature and my father-in-law's kindness. So, Jack wasn't worried about his parents after all. He just wanted to keep an eye on them. And I was the one assigned to monitor them. To Jack, I was just a convenient housekeeper. Anger welled up along with frustration. I'm definitely getting a divorce. I resolved to divorce Jack. However, getting a divorce suddenly is difficult. If I bring it up, it will only work against me. First, I need to gather evidence that will be advantageous in a divorce. I could ask my father-in-law to testify about their recent conversation. But that alone might not be enough. If there's something decisive. From that day, I decided to closely monitor Jack's actions. Meanwhile, I acted as usual. I did as Jack said, pretending to know nothing. Whether it was a good thing or not, Jack did not notice anything and interacted with me as usual. "Sarah, can you prepare a gift? I'd like it to be baby items." "Baby items? Why? Do you remember Henry, who came to our wedding? He's an employee at my company. His subordinate Henry had just had a baby. He wanted to prepare a gift. But he's too busy with work to go shopping for it. He wants to hand it over before his business trip this weekend, so he asked me to buy it tomorrow." "Got it. Anything specific?" "No, I trust your taste. You'll know what's necessary after childbirth." Jack smiled. I nodded with a smile as well. Thinking I shouldn't involve unrelated people, I decided to simply follow these instructions. But the next day, after work, as I was about to enter a store that sold baby items, an unexpected encounter awaited me. It happened when I was about to enter a store that sells baby products to buy a gift. Suddenly, someone called out to me from behind. "Sarah, right?" I turned around to see a well-dressed man in a suit standing there. He looked neat and seemed like a nice young man. I felt I had seen him somewhere before, and after a moment, I realized he was Henry. "Yes, Henry, from my husband's company." "Yes, thank you for everything." "No, thank you." "Oh, are you buying a gift for your wife?" I pointed to the baby product store in front of us. But Henry looked puzzled. "No. I'm not married." At his words, I tilted my head. Jack had definitely said that Henry had just had a child. I asked Henry for more details, wondering what was going on. Then, I learned something completely unexpected. Henry definitely came to buy baby supplies. However, it wasn't for his own wife. Incredibly, it was for Jack. This surprised me greatly. Apparently, Jack had told Henry that I was pregnant. Of course, I immediately denied it. At this, Henry seemed to grow suspicious as well. We moved to a different location to discuss things more thoroughly. As a result, Jack's lies began to unravel one by one. First, it was true that Jack's company was expanding its business, but the salaries had not decreased. On the contrary, due to the expansion, the employees' salaries had increased. Naturally, Jack's salary had increased as well. Moreover, Jack's business trips were a lie. There were trips, but not nearly as frequent as he claimed. It feels like about once a month at most. Recently, we can communicate online, so the need to meet with clients in person has decreased. Henry explained. Thus, Jack had been lying about business trips and was going elsewhere. Furthermore, he had attempted to acquire baby products under the pretense that I was pregnant. The only conclusion I could draw was one. Jack was having an affair, and his partner had gotten pregnant. Moreover, the salary he was not bringing home could be conjectured to be going to his mistress. I was nearly losing myself in anger. In the midst of this, Henry kindly spoke to me. "Mr. Wilson has always been a womanizer. I'll help, so gathering evidence to file for divorce would be best." Naturally, I agreed to Henry's proposal. I immediately began gathering evidence. Henry would assist me with monitoring Jack's behavior at work. At the same time, I hired a professional agency to conduct a behavior investigation. Moreover, both Henry and I, without Jack's knowledge, purchased the baby products. Pretending we knew nothing, we handed them over to Jack. "I'll give these to Henry. Also, I'm going on a business trip for the next 2 weeks." "Okay. Take care." I sent him off, pretending to know nothing. And then, 2 weeks later, Jack came home late at night. Moreover, he was quite drunk. "Are you okay? Where did you drink? What does it matter to you? Just shut up and get the bath ready." His tone was unusually harsh. I frowned slightly and sighed quietly. "What? Got a problem? Even I want to drink sometimes." "I understand." I supported Jack as he staggered. Then, Jack shrugged off my hand. "I'm going to take a bath, so clean this up." Jack pointed at the suitcase with his chin. I nodded slightly while holding it. "Understood. You should be able to handle this much without being told, seriously." With a grunt, Jack headed to the bathroom. Watching him go, I sighed. I slowly lifted the suitcase. Just then, something fell out with a rustle. What? What's this? Looking down, I saw an envelope at my feet. Wondering what it could be, I opened the envelope. What is this? Inside the envelope were some photos and a divorce paper. The divorce paper was signed by Jack. And in the enclosed photos were a woman and a child. Perhaps this means he wants to leave me because his mistress has had his child. Yes, Jack said to clean this up. Meaning, file this divorce paper. This is the happiest gift I've received in a long time. Jack must feel the same way. I need to prepare something in return. A wonderful return gift named revenge. I smiled slightly and carefully slipped the envelope into my pocket. Then I opened the suitcase. But it was after the laundry had been done. I see, a declaration of war. It's odd for all the contents of a suitcase to be washed right after a business trip. No housewife would find this normal. There must be a woman during the business trip who does his laundry. In other words, it was like a declaration of war from a mistress, saying, I did the laundry for him. Moreover, this time she even included photos. With the bonus of a divorce paper. Probably, Jack's agitation was due to this. Pressed by his mistress to get a divorce. But Jack doesn't want to let go of me, a conveniently usable housekeeper. Probably, they had a fight. And the angry mistress planted the divorce paper and photos. Well, that seems about right. Then, I have no choice but to take up this challenge, do I? I smirked and went back to my room. Ideally, I would file the divorce form immediately. But if I'm getting divorced, I'll need a new place to move to. And I want to say goodbye to my in-laws as well. Looks like I'll be busy starting tomorrow. I spent a sleepless night excited about the upcoming changes. And the next morning, when Jack woke up, I said this to him. Jack, it's a busy period at my work right now, so I'll be coming home late for a while. Is that so? That's tough, you too. After that conversation, I left the house with Jack. But instead of going to work, I turned back home. At the same time, I informed the company that I am resigning. Of course, there's a reason I did this. Actually, last night, I had already informed my father that I was planning to divorce. This morning, he sent me an email saying, the divorce might cause trouble at your workplace. Quit your job and come back home immediately. I will arrange a place for you to live and find you a new job. You don't need to worry about anything. So, I decided to resign immediately. I also began preparing to move out at home. By the evening, the movers arranged by my father had completed the move. After that, I filed the divorce paper and my father introduced me to a skilled lawyer. All that's left is to wait for Jack to get in touch. Using a network camera, I watched my parents home from my new place while drinking wine. I was enjoying some relaxed time for the first time in a while when suddenly my phone began to ring. It was Jack. I checked and ignored it. After repeating this a few times, the doorbell at my parents' house rang. After a while, the camera showed my father and Jack at the door. I watched the developments with a grin. What brings you here at this hour? It's... I can't get in touch with Sarah. Oh. Isn't she at work? Jack's face turned pale at my father's words and he looked down. No, that's just it, her belongings are gone from the house. All my belongings were gone. Moreover, no matter how many times he called, there was no response. When he contacted my company, he was told that I had resigned. Jack rambled on quickly about all this. Hearing this, my father asked Jack. Can't you think of anything that might have caused this? No. I can't think of anything. Jack stammered out his answer, constantly wiping the sweat that was streaming down his face. Seems like he couldn't confess about the affair. As I thought this, my father suddenly raised his voice. You must know the reason, don't you? Jack flinched at my father's low voice. He answered, avoiding eye contact. No, nothing. Don't lie. You were having an affair, weren't you? Affair. Jack's eyes began to dart around. Just that reaction was as good as a confession. Yet, my father didn't let up his questioning. He stared at Jack intently and continued in a strong tone. Do you want to see the evidence, or would you rather confess yourself? Which will it be? Yikes. I'm sorry. It was just a momentary lapse. Please don't tell Sarah. Stop it. You don't have the right or the qualifications to say that. At my father's stern rebuke, Jack fell silent. As my father stared at the subdued Jack, he said firmly. Anyway, Sarah intends to divorce you. What? Wait, please. It's no use telling me. If Sarah talks that she wants you to return money which she had been paying for you, just agree to it, got it? Yes. Jack replied in a small voice. Of course, I was laughing heartily in front of the camera. Seeing Jack trudge back home lifted my spirits a bit. Well, this isn't over yet. I muttered as I picked up my phone. Needless to say, I called my father-in-law. I informed him that I had filed for divorce. So, I've filed the divorce papers. That idiot's son, what is he doing? My father-in-law began to rage over the phone. As I calmed him down, I made a request. So, can you help me? Understood. He has caused enough trouble, I won't hold back my assistance. Thus, I secured the cooperation of my father-in-law. The following day, I called Jack during the lunch break. I expected him to pick up immediately, but he didn't. What was all that calling about? As soon as Jack realized I was gone, he had bombarded me with calls. Yet, when I tried to contact him, he showed no sign of answering. Last night, my father had told him to agree to discuss the alimony. Looks like he's prepared for a total resistance. Annoyed, I quickly changed my clothes. Then I took a taxi to Jack's company. When I entered the office, Jack noticed and darted out from the back room. What are you doing here, Sarah? What? I came to discuss our divorce. You wouldn't answer your phone. I purposely raised my voice. Naturally, the entire office turned their gaze toward us. Hey, don't shout like that here. Are you scared your employees will find out about the affair? Or is it because you lied about me being pregnant? At that, the office began to buzz. Jack had reportedly announced to the office that I was pregnant. I had learned this from Henry. He seemed happy as he talked about it during a company-wide morning assembly. So, me denying being pregnant here would expose Jack's lie. As Jack began to receive cold looks from his employees, he led me outside the office. Oh. Decided to agree to discuss the alimony? Let's change the location for now. Jack was visibly irritated. He then took me to a nearby cafe. Jack ordered some items and dismissed the waitress before he started complaining in a low voice. What are you trying to do? Do you want to disgrace me? If you do things like that, I won't have a leg to stand on. Huh? It's your own fault for lying. Why did you lie in the first place? When I asked this, Jack suddenly fell silent. Always quick to go quiet when things get tough for him. I've already filed for divorce, so. What? You filed for divorce? How? Don't tell me, you forged it? Jack smirked as if he'd found a loophole. But I replied coolly. Oh. It was in your suitcase. Along with the mistress's photo. As I smiled, Jack looked startled. Apparently, something clicked for him. At that moment, I made a phone call to someone. I gave them our location and asked them to come over. Who are you calling? Someone to help with the discussion. They'll be here soon, so we can continue then. It seems they had been waiting nearby. The person entered the cafe within a few minutes. Jack's face turned pale immediately. Soon, the person stood trembling before Jack. So, Jack, you've been unfaithful? Mom, no, it's not what it seems. The person who entered was my mother-in-law. My father-in-law was also with her. This was exactly what I had requested from my father-in-law the previous day. I wanted my mother-in-law to back me up when Jack complained. Jack might act arrogantly towards his father, but he's always been submissive to his mother. My mother-in-law is a woman of strong moral fiber and can be described as very serious. Because she was like that, it seems Jack was often scolded as a child. Even now, he is apparently afraid of his mother. Yet, why would he cheat? It should have been clear that he would be scolded if found out. It's baffling what he was thinking. While I was pondering this, Jack was being scolded by his mother right in front of me. What on earth were you thinking, you? But. I said it's not like that. What's not like that? I've heard it from Sarah. And I've seen the results of the investigation into your behavior, look. Bang. My mother-in-law slammed an envelope on the table. It contained the results of Jack's private investigation that I had provided. I've seen it too, and the affair is undeniable. Shut up, Dad. Jack yelled at his father. But his mother quickly intervened. You be quiet. Before you yell at us, you should be apologizing to Sarah. Ah. Come on. Apologize now. My mother-in-law pressed Jack in a stern voice. Jack quickly looked away. At that moment, my mother-in-law's anger exploded. She grabbed Jack by the neck and forced him to apologize on the spot. I'm sorry. What about the alimony? I'll pay it. Please forgive me. Jack was on the verge of tears as he squeezed out his voice. I couldn't help but find his appearance amusing. Afterward, while being scolded by his mother, Jack agreed to pay the alimony. I told him I would be contacted by the lawyer with the details, and then I left. After leaving the coffee shop, I muttered to myself. Now for that woman. I stared intently at the photo of the mistress saved on my phone. Soon after, the lawyer contacted me to confirm that I had received the alimony from Jack. This settles things for now. I finally felt relieved. But it's not over yet. There's one more thing I need to do. That was my revenge against his mistress. The retaliation is scheduled for a few days later. I excitedly waited for the day to come. Before I knew it, several days had passed, and the day arrived. I tried to calm my restless feelings as I headed to the place. It was the venue for a business networking event. This time, the Chamber of Commerce was hosting. I casually greeted people and first looked for Jack. Soon after, I found him and approached him from behind. It's been a while, Jack. What? Sarah. Why are you at a business networking event? Surprised, Jack looked at the business card I handed him. He looked at it intently and then exclaimed in surprise. I've become the owner of a real estate rental business. So I hope we can get along. What do you mean? What? I just took over from my father. I replied with a smile. Meanwhile, Jack looked puzzled and asked back. Wait, wasn't your dad a taxi driver? So I thought. He didn't ask my father for financial support for our living expenses. That's what Jack said. Indeed, my father was a taxi driver. But that was more like a hobby for him. While running a real estate rental business, my father enjoyed driving and worked as a taxi driver. However, after Jack's infidelity came to light, I decided to quit my job. Of course, if the discussions had gone smoothly, I might not have needed to quit. But my father saw it as a good opportunity and offered to hand over his business to me. He also said he would rent me one of his properties as my new home. So, I decided to take over my father's job. Of course, there are various challenges. It's not that I'm inheriting the properties my father owns. I just became the president of the management company he created. My job mainly involves interactions with real estate management companies that actually manage the properties. For the smaller properties not managed by the company, I've taken over their operation. It's not much work, so as it stands, I'm not too busy. But I'm planning to really get into it now, so today I want to hear from various people. That's why I attended the networking event for business owners. As I shared this, Jack was taken aback. While we were talking, a man approached us. Long time no see, Jack. Ah, this is Mr. Thompson. Thank you for always being so helpful. Jack greeted him. I smirked nearby. Oops, were you in the middle of a conversation? Oh, no, not at all. More importantly, as Jack turned his back on me, I pushed past him. Stepping forward, I greeted the person Jack had called Mr. Thompson. Nice to meet you, Mr. Thompson. I'm Sarah, Jack's ex-wife. Ex-wife? Mr. Thompson's expression changed. Pretending to be oblivious, I continued the conversation. Just recently, we divorced. He cheated and had a child with another woman. Stop. Don't say anything more unnecessary. Jack tried to cover my mouth. But I forcibly spilled everything. Hearing this, Mr. Thompson placed a hand on Jack's shoulder with a strained expression. What's this all about? Ah, well. Jack's mouth moved wordlessly. He seemed to want to say something, but the words didn't form. Inside, I pumped my fist, thinking, yes, I did it. Then a saccharine voice was heard. Daddy. Did you find Jack? Turning toward the voice, there was a flashy woman. Upon spotting Jack, she hurried over. Jack. Found you. She hugged Jack with an annoying tone. Jack, looking pale, pushed the woman away. As the air around us froze, I deliberately spoke up. Oh. Isn't that Samantha, Jack's mistress? How do you do? Huh? Who are you? I'm Jack's ex-wife. Ex? Before she could finish, Samantha clamped her mouth shut. Mr. Thompson pulled Samantha towards him. Samantha, what's going on here? No, this woman is crazy. Samantha pointed at me. While thinking she was quite rude, I explained the situation to everyone. It turns out Samantha and Mr. Thompson are father and daughter, and she had been introducing Jack as her husband. However, Samantha and Mr. Thompson don't live together. But Mr. Thompson frequently visited Samantha. Every time Mr. Thompson visited Samantha's home, Jack also met him there, posing as her husband. That was the real purpose behind Jack's business trips. Realizing this, I divorced Jack. When I told Mr. Thompson this story, he became furious, his face turning red with anger. Did you lie to me, both of you? No, that's not true. I didn't know anything. Samantha feigned ignorance. That's when I pulled out the envelope with the photos. Here's a photo of Samantha and your child. And on the back, it says this. I flipped over the photo, and it read. Get a divorce soon. As soon as Mr. Thompson saw these words, he raised his voice. This is Samantha's handwriting, isn't it? You knew that Jack was married. No, I didn't. Afterward, Mr. Thompson started scolding Jack and Samantha right there. The two, chastised by Mr. Thompson, admitted to conspiring and lying. She knew it was an affair, but she couldn't give up. Samantha repeated this. On the other hand, Jack repeated this. He intended to divorce soon. Then why didn't you agree to discuss the divorce right away? With that one question from me, Jack's lies were exposed. From there, it all fell apart. Eventually, it was settled that Samantha would pay me alimony. She would work under Mr. Thompson and pay it off. As for Jack, his punishment was the cessation of business deals. Mr. Thompson had suspended business with him on the spot. Of course, many people witnessed this. It was bound to lead to a loss of credibility. Needless to say, sometime later, Jack's company went bankrupt. Jack is now helping out at his father-in-law's diner. Of course, while being scolded by his mother-in-law. Also, Jack's former clients, other than those under Mr. Thompson, were taken over by a new company. This company was started by Jack's former subordinates who had nowhere else to go. Who's the president of the new company? When I went to thank Henry, who had been helpful, I casually asked him. It's me. So, would you like to discuss business over dinner? I had no intention of dating a man right after my divorce. But I wanted to talk to him a bit more. Is this feeling romantic or just a simple interest in business? I already know the answer. That's why I accepted his invitation.